MMA is hot right now. Big fight in boxing this weekend. If we can transition combat sports, you're going to have to go out to Saudi for this one. We're talking about a heavyweight title rematch when Andy Ruiz Jr. puts all 3 belts on the line that he won
that picture is.
in upset fashion from Anthony Joshua in April. They're going to do the rematch this Saturday afternoon in Saudi Arabia. And Chuck, heavyweights are red hot right now in boxing. We're just a couple weeks removed from Wilder Ortiz. We've got Wilder Fury 2 coming up in February.
It's going to be good.
But this one's for 3 of those 4 recognized heavyweight championship belts. Wow.
Need to towel you off, man.
Wow. So much of this narrative heading in, and rightfully so, is what is AJ's headspace going to look like? Knocks down Ruiz in that epic round 3 of the first time around, then gets hit with that equilibrium shot in the ear, was never the same, gets stopped in round 7, and the division was turned upside down. Is AJ all we thought he was heading into that fight as a global superstar and phenomenon? Where's his head going to be at entering this fight?
It's crazy because John Skipper basically put out a tweet, I remember this, saying that AJ was on brand, basically making $40 million last year. He was this close coming to America. He's on brand with being like a Ronaldo or a LeBron, right? This is the kind of space we were talking about. And there's a lot of people in the boxing realm, obviously, and there's a lot of people overseas. This was our first look at him. It's the strangest thing when something like this happens because you're not sure to what length all of that mojo has been shaken. Like, where is he at this point? Is he going to come back in some diminished form? That's always the question.
Yeah.
That's always the question. And I feel like that guy particularly, just kind of how he came up and going into the fight, which was obviously a late replacement. There was a lot going on there that was kind of unorthodox. I know his head wasn't completely into the fight, and then the way it played out, it was almost existential. Like you could see him almost embarrassed in real time by his performance. And when you see all of that, you just feel like the pressure is on him to try to regain more than just the titles. You know what I mean? It's just, there's more to it than that. And I always feel like that's where the backstory is at.
You nailed it. The pressure is so huge because it's not just about those titles. It's about justifying who he was coming in. That fight was supposed to be a walkthrough. He was supposed to be fighting Jarrell Big Baby Miller until he failed about 18 drug tests in Madison Square Garden, U.S. debut. All of England filled that arena. We were there that night. It was Sweet Caroline going all around like crazy. Ba, ba, ba. Good times.
Yeah.
They felt so good. So good. But,
until that third round.
So he's got to look. I don't think it's out of bounds to say that this fight in some ways is make or break for his entire career. Meaning, should AJ succumb a second time and lose by knockout, when you consider the money he has earned to get to this point, this guy's selling out 80,000-seat soccer stadiums, 90,000 against Klitschko. I mean, it's just insane, the phenomenon that he became, not just in England where he was Olympic star, but he's got the family roots in Africa. He became a worldwide global star. If he loses, the ghost may be gone.
Tied to what, though? It was like tied to a 22-0 record, 21 knockout, right? He's putting it all together. He had all the elements. Well, the sheen of invincibility was the first thing to go. And if he loses it a second time, you really wonder to what extent.
I mean, look, the reason why this fight is in Saudi Arabia rather than a soccer stadium in England or rather than Cowboy Stadium, and the reason why, look, if you're DAZN, you probably don't love that it's going on in the afternoon up against the SEC Championship on CBS as opposed to, at night, but AJ's getting $75 million, the report is. That's why it's there. Everybody's cashing in on it. I wonder, though, if that sort of side location that doesn't seem to favor either guy is the best thing for AJ in this spot. Because so much of this fight is going to be mental. Point. You're not going to have the throngs of that British press and the American press at the same time waiting for him to crack and break. And they're doing it in a makeshift 15,000-seat outdoor stadium in the middle of the desert that just popped up out of nowhere.
I love that they do these things in these makeshift
Oh, my God, because
arenas.
there's so much cash going around that I think it's almost make or break for his entire career. Because with this $75 million, with every piece of money that he's made, if he gets knocked out again, he might just walk away for good.
The only thing worse,
though, than
going into a fight when it seems like it's an inevitability that you're going to win is when you go in with the air of the fluke. That you just lost. People are now talking about a fluke. It's almost like they're doing the exact same thing. They're saying it's a fluke, but he was losing on. How did you have the fight score? Because I felt like he was losing on all.
He was.
And I mean, it's one of those situations like that's not really a fluke. I know that when you said the equilibrium shot, it changes things. But I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like there's a lot to be.
I mean, I've seen many a guy in boxing get hit right in the ear or behind it, and you're just never the same. You got to actually credit AJ in this spot. He gutted out another 3-4 rounds, but you go back and DAZN has a really good documentary on it called One Night that they have about that fight, and it really documents like he just wasn't himself the rest of that fight, and he gutted it out. To me, that's the same level fluke in a way of Lennox Lewis getting one shot by Oliver McCall or one-shotted by Hasim Rahman, which he avenged them both. So the difference in people comparing the Andy Ruiz knockout win to like a Tyson Douglas, I think it is different. I don't think it's so much different from Buster compared to Andy, even though that's...
Maybe just in the odds.
I think it's that Tyson, like Ronda Rousey, was so invincible that when you pull that air of invincibility away from them, you find out what they're really made of. And both people were in some ways never the same. Tyson still had a career, obviously. But AJ has been... Look, he's not a perfect fighter or boxer by any means. He's a great finisher when he gets you hurt. He can handle the star power and the pressure that comes with it. But he's been vulnerable in some of his biggest wins. He got knocked down by Klitschko. He got hurt
Said he was taking a round off, didn't he?
He got hurt by Dillian White. He got rocked by Carlos Takam early in that fight. He had that boring long fight in which he outpointed Joe Parker. So maybe it's going to be easier for him to bounce back because he's been through some...
I feel like that's the intrigue.
Been through some vulnerabilities where... Look, spoiler alert, if I'm handicapping this fight, I think the odds makers got it right. I like AJ in this rematch. The key is going to be to use that jab and create distance, because let's not forget, that one punch from Andy Ruiz changed the whole night to the ear, but it was because he got inside the jab and was able to land that shot. If AJ can get in a great mental space and rely on that jab, he does have the size advantage and the reach. Is Andy Ruiz a better pure boxer? Yes. But Andy Ruiz has never been to take his nickname, the destroyer that he was in that fight. I know he rose to the occasion with no pressure on his biggest night. He's not Buster Douglas. He's more polished. He's been on the title level before, but he's also not a killer. So I do think the door is open here for AJ to put the train back on the tracks.
Too, right? Like smelled the blood in the water. He kind of went crazy there for a minute trying to finish it. You know what I mean? I feel like he'll be a little more cautious in a situation like that.
And some of the things about AJ that people got wrong after that fight was that, he was never so good to begin with. He was never this or that. Look, go back and look at the wins he's gotten. I mean, he's beaten a Klitschko, a Dillian White, a Joe Parker, all those guys. This is his big opportunity, and the Sultans are going to be swinging. This is going to be a big time business.
You got me fired up for it.
I'm fired up for it, and so you got any prediction that people want to know?
Are you going?
No, I'm not going. I'll be on my couch here.
I am leaning him. I mean, I think that anything he was caught by surprise, like he'll have time to then figure out. So anything that happened in that first fight, I would take it a little bit with a grain of salt. I guess I am tending, not fluke, I hate that word because like I said, he was not winning the rounds and there was some extenuating circumstances, but I feel like he'll have it solved this time.
By the way, you should check out that DAZN doc to see Mike Tyson just
I want to see
the
that.
walls.
You mentioned this to me before.
I do want to talk quickly, and we did mention
Wilder. Who's your prediction? You're going to tell me?
AJ. AJ's going to do it. I think he's going to get a late stoppage, actually. I think he's going to box beautifully and set that up. Ruiz at some point is going to have to go for broke. I think he runs into something. Fury Wilder 2 on the horizon. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the victor on Saturday. Look, if AJ wins, you kind of go back into position. Usyk's is mandatory on that side, a DAZN-friendly fighter, but Dillian White is going to be on his undercard. And we know they had that fun fight the first time around, their amateur rivals. What can be crazy is if Andy Ruiz wins on Saturday for the second time, because he's a PBC fighter who would be taking those 3 or 4 heavyweight titles, going back to Showtime and Fox on PBC, and then you could presumably put him in there against the winner of Wilder Fury 2 for all the belts. Big time. This is what we want in the heavyweight division. We're not talking about Ibragimov and Liakovic and all these old names of old.
Just over this last year, it's all opened up again, man. I love it.
Well, this Saturday, there is more boxing than just what's going on in Saudi. Showtime's back with a card in Brooklyn. Luke and I are going to be at this weekend. You want to check it out? WBC middleweight champion Jamal Charlo, one of the rising stars in the sport, is back. And a very interesting test against Dennis Hogan. Now, Chuck, we saw Hogan in his last bout, very controversial decision loss to Jaime Munguia. This is a guy that can fight. This is a guy that can test him. I'm going to be looking forward to how Charlo comes out there and relaxes. But it's been an interesting year for the Charlos going back to last December. Remember his brother Jermell lost the 154 title to Tony Harrison. They're going to have a rematch in December. Jermall went almost life or death with Matt Korobov in a very interesting fight. I think you're going to have to watch the co-main event on Saturday. You could be finding yourself a new Charlo opponent in the future. Chris Eubank Jr. going to be in there against Matt Korobov, and that's going to be a fun fight.
That cat have the same poetry as his dad?
We love the Eubanks. How good is Chris Eubank Sr.
He's the best,
to just put him out there in front of a microphone? I mean, the guy's just so poetic and just,
And it's not just one poem. The guy has flip through his cards and he can pull up any of them. So
I mean, he's great. But Chris Eubank Jr. can bang. He's a fun fighter.
Yeah.
But back to just Jamal Charlo quickly. These Charlos, man, you put them in front of a microphone, they make things happen. You put them in a ring, they take fool's souls. They can punch, they can box. I think both guys are sort of waiting to bust out and be that pound for pound talent. You down for Lions Only?
I'm down.
All right, you're gonna be tuning in on Saturday as well. Hey, big stuff, big time business coming around in boxing and in MMA.
See, I like this show because I get to watch more boxing. It's required to watch some boxing. That's what I like, man.
I
like to be able
to watch some pro wrestling too.
Oh, see, that's where I draw the line.
I'm gonna need a sweat rag in here. The lack of flowing air is really getting to me this week.